Little
blows my mind.
13-year-old Dez with
Oh my
Twitter.
God.
If this was going on,
Yeah, I would have been a troll.
You would have been talking that ish.
Welcome back to Beyond the Diamond, the Ross Bolen episode. Ross is the founder of Bolen Media, Banging the Can, Ross Bolen Pod, Oysters, Clam, and Cockles, diehard Houston sports fan. Ross, thanks for jumping on, brother, man.
Thank y'all for having me, dude. Excited to be here.
Just let's jump into your fandom. Actually, also for the New York Times bestseller as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
That is, I mean, rarity right there.
It's important to acknowledge the one book I wrote over a decade ago. I'm 1 for 1 though. Batting 1,000 New York Times bestsellers.
Not a lot of people could say that.
Flip the bat and walk away.
Yeah. Let's talk about just your fandom. Obviously, you're in Austin, but diehard sports fan, diehard Astros, Rockets, Texans. Obviously, if you haven't been on Twitter or on Instagram or anything, you've been missing out on your content. But what made you a fan?
So I mean, I grew up on the west side of Houston between Memorial and Katy. That's the only thing I know to refer to it as. People are always like, "What part of Houston are you from?" I'm like, the west side, but specifically between Memorial and Katy. There's like a gap there, and that's where I was.
Galleria down I-10.
Derry Ashford and Briar Forest is where I was at. I went to Westside High School, so born and raised Houstonian. Houston is still my home, even though I've been in Austin for 12 years now.
Damn.
But I mean, I grew up going to Astros games. My parents are both from the Houston area, so my dad was a huge Houston sports fan growing up. Obviously, I was probably biggest on the Astros as a kid because baseball was my favorite sport, but a huge Rockets fan. And I kind of liked the Oilers, but I wasn't like old enough to really appreciate like NFL football by the time that they were gone. And then I became a huge Texans fan, had season tickets for years during what I guess would be considered the height of the franchise during the Matt Schaub era, which is sadly the height of our franchise's history.
Unfortunately.
It was fun, man. It was fun when the Texans were decent, even though we would get blown out and embarrassed in the playoffs. But I mean, I've loved Houston sports my whole life. Always been a big part of my life, and it is the hardest thing to miss about Houston is just the ability to like just go to an Astros game whenever you want, go to a Rockets game, go to a Texans game whenever you want. That is something Austin is majorly lacking in. Granted, we have the MLS team now or whatever, but it's like it's far away, dude. It's up north. And
domain.
So having grown up watching the games with my parents and fallen in love with all of our teams, it's just something I've always followed and kept up with as much as I can. And I've always had obsessive Houston sports friends that I talk through everything with. You know how it is. So it just eventually blended into my career a little bit as well, where I get the opportunity to talk about Houston sports on Banging the Can and as a part of my business. So I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I think all of us growing up the way we have, and it was always Heartbreak Houston. It was always ways of what sports teams going to break our hearts. But now there's this new generation of kids that never experienced that. All they know is like winning and like going to the World Series and all this stuff. Could you imagine telling you at 10 years old that this was what we'd be doing in our young adult lives?
Even the Rockets and Texans have had some success in the past decade.
I mean, before James Harden left, right? We were in what was inarguably the golden age of Houston sports, where we had Deshaun Watson on the Texans. The Rockets were right there on the cusp of competing for a championship. The Astros had just won their first World Series in 2017. And I was like, we're doing it. We're doing what like New England area did for years, right? Where every single one of their teams was good and competing for championships. And then we kind of had this weird slide for after Harden left to create. Obviously, the Rockets had to do a full rebuild. Bill O'Brien gutted the Texans, and we've been building back since. And now it feels like we're sort of back there, where it wasn't a long enough gap to make what you just said incorrect. We are so spoiled now by comparison, where growing up, like, yes, the Rockets won back-to-back championships, but other than that, it was always disappointment, right? It was always like we made the World Series in 2005 and got swept. That was hell. It put me in that place where I was asking, would I have rather we didn't make the postseason than experience this?
Yeah.
Where it's just utter embarrassment and pain.
I mean, we're like so spoiled because going back to my childhood, I would have killed to be in the championship series that many years in a row. Oh my God, making it once was like my world.
No, dude, I know. And now it's so funny because like obviously the Astros have had a weird season this year. It's just been like the health issues alone have made it kind of a sketchy season where our spoiled ass fan base can't help but complain like, oh my God, it's over. Fire Dusty Baker. It's like, dude, just everybody calm down. Everybody calm down. We're 2 games back at the All-Star break. We're still absolutely what I would consider a championship contender. I have no doubt we'll make the postseason, but we're very spoiled now, like you said, compared to where we used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a like this thought that I'm like, I'd been unsufferable if I was like 10, 12 years old right now and have all the success and then like I would have been that Boston kid, with like the sign that
that kid.
He's like, I've been to like 21 parades. And I'm 10 years old. Like that would have been me in this situation of how good the Houston sports landscape on the Astros side and the other sports hopefully get there. But it's just blows my mind.
13-year-old Dez with Twitter. If this was going on.
Yeah, I'd have been a troll.
You would have been talking that ish.
Today's episode and interview is brought to you by Big City Wings. Big City Wings, Houston's wing joint, Apollo's wing joint, winner of the Golden Fork Award, 13 locations. You could find that one nearest you at bigcitywings.com. Specials going on throughout the week. Some of the best 2-for deals, best burger on Wednesday deals. They love us. We love them. And thank you so very much for being a powered, sponsored episode by Big City Wings.
Yep. Back to the show.
I'll say this. Like Astros obviously still great. And even in a season where so much has gone wrong, we're still so much fun to watch on a game-to-game basis. There's been some inconsistency, but all in all, great team, great front office. And the Texans seem to be in a place where there's something to be excited about again, right? Like having a coach that was part of the Bulls on Parade is one thing, but like adding young talent again that it seems like we can build around through the draft has been awesome. The Rockets finally have a coach that I think the fan base can believe in, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we have enough young talent that now, having brought in Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, I think they've got guys who can at least teach the youngins how to be pros, right? Like to do the things that they need to do. So all of the teams are theoretically doing exactly what I would hope as a big fan. So that's really all you can ask as a sports city, right? Like that your teams be run well. And we've seen what happens when they're not. Like with the Bill O'Brien era of the Texans, that was absolute hell because you could just see that nobody knew what they were doing. Like nobody had their arms wrapped around that franchise anymore. It was just chaos.
Yeah.
In the worst
when you
way.
run well and you lose, it's like, okay, we tried our best. Like it sucks. Things happen in sports. But when you're like just horribly run and frustrating, that's when you're like, God,
when your team's making terrible decisions, it's brutal, man. I mean, that what you just described was the Daryl Morey Rockets for me. It was like, yes, we weren't winning anything, right? We weren't winning a championship, and I don't think there were more than maybe 1 year where anybody thought we even had a realistic shot of winning a championship, and that was the year that Chris Paul went down. But you knew the team was run well, so every year you could go in excited about getting to watch good basketball on a game-to-game basis. And then that went completely out the window for a little bit. So hopefully it's back next season because it's crushed me, man. Like the Astros, there's been nothing to complain about for years. Right. And with the Rockets, I have wanted to die trying to force myself to watch those games. It's just such bad basketball.
Well, I think it's you nailed it because there's a vision, right? You can sell me a vision, and I could believe in what way we're going, wrong or right, but as long as you have a clear path. And I think that's why the Astros have resonated over the last decade and a half because they're like, hey, we're going to tank. We're purposely going to lose. This is our game plan, and if it happens and it works, great. If it doesn't, well, we had a plan. And you have these guys, Lance, Tuve, Bregman, the Correas, the Springers, and all these other guys that set the tone, and now you have like this year with all these injuries, the JP France, the Belax, the Blanc, all these other guys stepping right in, and I feel like it's just more efficient than what Ford ever did in his assembly line because the culture and the winning and stuff, they just plug right in. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was telling the guys, I was like, if you went to New York, LA, Chicago, and you just had pictures of the guys, be like, name this Astro. No idea it'd be JP France or no idea it'd be like Brandon Belack.
No.
Like, but these guys are eating innings
They
and winning ball games. Like,
Yeah.
Dude,
and I think it's a culture thing.
There are big Astros fans who like don't know who Mauricio Dubon is. Like,
Oh,
you know what I
100%.
You know what I mean? Like if you showed a picture, walked around Houston with a photo of him, people would be like, I don't actually know. He's been one of the
Yeah.
biggest contributors this season, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
the guy was
100%.
leading us in batting average for months. It's crazy how well run the team is. Jim Crane is an unbelievably good owner, and it's like proven to me just how important ownership is in sports, right? Like if your owner is a slapdick who doesn't know what he's doing, you're
Yeah.
screwed. Because
Yeah.
they're not going to hire good people to run the club, and you're going to have to deal with a lot of pain and suffering and disappointment as a result. He's been amazing. The only blip at all was obviously moving on from our general manager after the World Series and then having this gap where some decisions were made with like the interim Jeff Bagwell, Jim Crane brain trust that we're going to have. It's not even fair to judge them yet. I don't think we're going to have to wait a little bit longer, but certainly so far there have been pieces of that are questionable, where like with Montero, everybody hopes this guy turns it around, right? Because that's been an obvious tough spot to watch for the Astros so far. Like watching a pitcher come out and clearly be off his game from like a mental standpoint is tough as a fan, because it's like if for anybody who's ever pitched, you know how mental that side of baseball is. If you're not locked in, if you don't have full confidence, you're going to get shelled, and certainly at the highest level in Major League Baseball, right? So, I mean, to circle back to what you're saying, though, the Astros are so easy to believe in because you trust the people running the team, and that makes it infinitely more fun as a fan.
Yeah.
It's the thing I'm so thankful for when it comes to the Astros franchise.
Yeah, I trust that they have a 5-year plan or whatever. Like I trust that like
or like a 10-year plan
right now. Yeah. I trust that like if we went downhill, sucked, finished 4th in the division this year, I still would be like, okay, well, we're still set up for next year, and we have a plan for the draft, and like we drafted good, like it's gonna be all right.
Well, also I think a lot of things that Crane gets a lot of flack on is billionaires. Mainly, a lot of billionaires aren't dumb, but one is he knows when the table's hot. Like he's not just like sitting back and like, oh, I ran my championships. Like, hey, let's keep pressing the envelope. I'm gonna keep spending my money. The Houston fans are gonna keep turning out, showing out, and so like when you get that feedback, you're like, oh, our billionaire owner who doesn't have to work a single day of his life, or his great grandchildren that don't have to work, but they still want to spend money and press the issue. That gives me confidence as a fan. Like,
oh yeah, I mean, a different type of owner would have just done nothing this offseason and would have missed out. Brady would have gone to a different team. Like we would have just missed out on players. Like I'm at least grateful he took the chance.
Yeah,
and like a player like Abreu, like it can't really go wrong with that deal, especially when it's his money. Like it's not really affecting. It's not like we have a cap. Like it's not like there's an issue with luxury tax. Like sure, you can be like, oh man, we kind of wasted money on whatever player, we paid them too much. He made the move. It's his money. Like he made the move. Our team has good players on it. Like we're okay. Like,
this is one of my favorite things about sports fans. It's like you see all these people like, oh, they way overpaid for Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks. It's like, first of all, do you understand they have to spend X amount of money?
Yeah,
or the league just takes it. And then it's not your money. Why do you care? This guy's spending this money to try to make the team better. It's not your money.
The ratio of like times when a cap or luxury tax or whatever becomes an issue compared to when people worry about it becoming an issue is just like the amount of times it's actually an issue is just like almost never, especially with the Astros. Like almost never have we needed a player, but like, damn, we can't go get him because of
the salary cap.
No, I mean, we've almost never had that issue.
You mentioned Jose Abreu, who is a perfect example like headstrong management, right? Because over the first few months of the season, people are like, bench this guy, get rid of him, it's over, he's garbage now. Bagwell, what were you thinking? And like Bagwell was coming on the broadcast. You know how he does like the guest in the booth, whatever, and he plays Scarface music through his phone. He came on and he was game after game. He was like, I've got total faith in Jose Abreu that he's going to turn it around, that he'll contribute to this offense. And, I won't lie to you. It got hard. Like there were points where I was like, Bags, you better know what you're talking about, dude. This is getting really frustrating to watch.
I was the same way because I was full on the Abreu train, even like a month and a half in. And then he had that good time in Oakland where he hit his first home run. And I was like, all right, see, told you.
Yes.
And then he kind of went down for another couple weeks. I was like, shit. I was like, oh shit, am I wrong? Am I wrong? Are we wrong? Nope.
Yeah, that was the hardest part, is that home run got us all amped. And then he kind of slumped back down, and it was like, oh, crap. But no, man, he's been great now, man. I mean, he's been one of the more dangerous hitters on the team for a couple months. Yeah. So, again, I think
he's going to carry the team the next 2 months.
Dusty Baker's stuck with him, right?
Yep.
And he's producing. So you have to give credit then. If you're going to be one of the people that's like, fire Dusty, you've got to say on the other side, oh, he knew what he was doing as a guy who's been in baseball for 80 years. And I on my couch was wrong, right? You got to be willing to say that.
Yeah. And also the other side of the coin too. And I've actually told this to Dusty's face, because that COVID year, the make-believe year, that didn't even count in baseball terms, I was very critical of him. And I was just like, I maybe had some tweets out there, and and we saw him this past offseason, and I was like, Dusty, I had some tweets about you. And he was like, yeah, I know. And he's like, you want a shot of tequila? I'm like, sure. Like, it was just like water in the like, and I was just like very like, I was like, I'm owning up to it. And he's like, no, I get it. Like he was like, he gets where a fan is coming from. And he was like, I'd rather have that than no one talking about me. Like, I mean, like, I think one of our guys, Tony Adams, he said it. He was like, you don't want to hear anything as a fan, like as a batter, like all these guys being booed at the All-Star game. Like, it'd be worse if it was just completely silent. That means that they don't even care about you. They're like,
I love that quote. I love that quote that the fans don't boo nobodies, right?
Yeah,
You have to have done something to earn the boos. And in the case of the Astros, they've done a lot. We've been torturing Yankees fans. Seattle Seattle went into the postseason feeling like that could maybe be their year, and we snuffed them out so hard that we're gonna catch boos, man. And of course, 2017, the controversy, whatever, it gives people the ammo that they need. But now I mean, stomping on people for 6 straight years is going to get you hate. And that's been it's the first time we've ever gotten to experience that as Houston sports fans, where we had a team that was so dominant for so many years in a row that everybody hates us. And now it's just a known thing, like with the Yankees back in the day before they stopped winning, that, you hated the Yankees if you were a baseball fan and you weren't from New York. That was, everybody knew that. Now they know that about the Astros.
Yeah. I think you're right, because I think probably like 75% of the boos now, they're just strictly, they hate us because of the success of the Astros. I think 25% is still like,
they use the cheating as just an excuse, like you said, ammo. But really, it's because they're upset.
They're not us.
Keep getting their ass beat.
Their team didn't do as good of a job with the sign stealing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, get better. They're
booing Tucker and Jordan.
Yeah, like Tucker was in like 7th grade English. And Tampa high school, and Jordan was a Dodger.
Yeah, that's my favorite. All the dudes getting booed that weren't even in the league yet.
Yeah, we had Stanek on last year, and he was like, I was getting booed in LA. He's like, dude, I was with Tampa Bay Ray. Like, what are you doing? It's like, I was just out of college.
You mentioned Stanek, so I had to say, him going after that second base umpire was one of the top 5 high moments of the first 91 games of the season or whatever, because I was so pumped up. It was like a tough week too. I feel like it had been a frustrating several games. And him finishing the inning and then verbally assaulting that man was beautiful.
Having the composure to like finish the strikeout too.
Yeah,
like he didn't just give up a little pop up or like like he struck him out with a heater and then was like, you mother.
Yeah. Dude, he's a scary looking caveman dude. Like, do y'all know who Rake Yawn is?
I don't know.
He was part of like the pre-Jackass CKY crew. There was this dude named
Oh,
Rake
okay.
Yawn who had the same hair as Stanek. He
Yeah.
looks just like him to me. And when he turned around and went apeshit on that ump, I was like, oh my God, he looks just like
What's funny is
Rake Yawn.
he's the nicest guy.
Dude, he's a
so sweet,
teddy bear.
kind of a nerd. Like he watches movies and like is hanging out and like he's just so sweet. But when that switch flips, like when he's competitive,
Psychopath.
he has that like pitcher like switch that flips when he steps on the mound where he's like, I am gonna shove it up your ass, fuck everybody. Like
Here's 100 miles an
yeah,
hour.
yeah, and it's awesome.
Gotta have that.
Speaking of the first half, that was one of my favorite moments. Who was your MVP, your Cy Young, and your surprise of the first half?
Framber's got to be the Cy Young, I think. I mean, he's like the one guy,
unanimous.
consistent ace, right? Like he hasn't really
Who
missed
knew
a
he was
step.
going to be this?
Dude, I mean, if you look back to a few years ago when he was, one of the things I love about him is his story, right? Like the mental side of his game was where he was struggling. He could not keep it together if something went wrong. And then they got him with a good sports psychologist or whatever. As a dude who is super into mental health and has struggled with it for years, like I loved that story because you would see him leave the mound in the World Series, go to the dugout, sit there with his eyes closed and just focus. Right? Like nothing else mattered. Nothing could get to him. Nothing could penetrate him. And he's maintained that for like 4 years now, where it's what you're getting. I want to know too. Yeah. I wish you would share it with us.
Awesome.
But he's incredible. Man, I almost want to say surprise and MVP should be the same guy, but I'll spread the love around. But Dubon is the surprise for me. Like watching him hit the first few months I was like, okay,
he just kept it up.
I mean, because it was a huge bummer. Obviously, Altuve breaking his thumb in the World Baseball Classic. I was like, God damn it! This dude came in and was admirably filling the gap. Like he played good at second base. He was hitting better than anybody on the team. It was amazing. So that was a big surprise. MVP, I'm gonna give it to Dusty Baker. Like that.
Ooh, I like that.
He has held it together. Say what you will about the man. He has done an incredible job with a very beaten up team, with a roster of people that, as we said earlier, half the fans wouldn't even recognize. Like the one area that there's still some back and forth, I feel like, between him and the fan base is with Chaz and Jake. And I feel like that'll probably be resolved by the trade deadline's ending, if I had to guess. I think he's handled everything unbelievably well, considering the circumstances, because it has been a brutally challenging season for the roster. And he's done a great, great, great job. Did I do all of them, or was there one more?
Did we have any more? Yeah, I think that was it. No, I think that's great. Like Dusty, also, when you lose the World Series in 21, right? The voices start getting louder. Like, will he ever win the big one? He finally gets it, and obviously puts the cherry on top of his Hall of Fame coaching career. But to come back and run it back, I thought that meant more than what people talked about, because he easily could have just rode out into the sunset. I got what I needed, but he wanted to win he wants to win a second one, and that, I mean, literally, when you get to talk to Dusty, he has one of those, the gene where you leave the conversation, you're like, man, I've known that guy forever. Like, is that guy my best friend? Like, he's just wired that way. And so for him to just be like, let's run it back, let's do it again, I think that's awesome. And the other side too, like you mentioned, like he's a player's coach, that locker room and holding it together with like duct tape and bubble gum, it felt like, because you lost 60% of your rotation. Verlander leaves. Altuve and Jordan have only played 13 games together. And you're sitting here about to start the second half, 2 games back, and reinforcements are coming. You're like, I like the spot I'm in. I mean, the Rangers, who spent $1 bazillion and leaking oil down the stretch, you got to feel like they see us, in the rearview mirror.
Absolutely.
6 All-Stars?
Yeah.
Team of 6 All-Stars, all this money, and we're 2 games back.
I mean, but look at the league, man. That's the thing about the MLB that is so amazing, is that this is for my whole life. These big spending, owners have been trying to buy championships, right? Look at
Yeah.
like the Padres this year, right? The Dodgers 95% of the time, right? They put together these insane rosters and then they wildly underperform and everybody's like, what happened? It's like, that's not baseball. You can't really do that.
Yeah.
If that was the way it worked, the Angels would win the World Series every year, having two of the greatest players in the history of the sport on the same team, right? Between Ohtani. So that's just it's like that's what I love about the Stros is they keep it going. The guys go out, right? Like over the last handful of years, we've probably 3 Hall of Famers have walked out of the building. Like it's
you could
been
argue
a
that.
literal all-star team has left.
Yeah.
Like you can slot all those guys as an all-star team and be like,
Yeah.
I'd take that as an all-star team.
Yeah, Teoscar, Springer, everybody. Yeah.
Springer, Correa, Verlander. I mean, it's been wild to see where it's like it's hard every time, right? Where when you have to watch a guy leave, it's always a little bit conflicting, but they keep it rolling every single year. They plug the gaps. They keep the farm system rolling well. It's like a finely tuned and well-oiled machine, right?
Yeah.
That's the Astros franchise at this point, and that's what makes it so easy and enjoyable to be a fan.
Yeah, I think the process and vision, right? We talked about earlier in the conversation, like you've sold that, and now you're actually showing proof of concept where, hey, a Garrett Cole can leave and other guys can emerge, a Framber, a Hobby, and all these. Justin Verlander can leave, and a Hunter Brown and JP France and be like
JP France can come up and just have a 3.2 ERA. Like what the hell?
So it's crazy to see, and I love it as a fan. It makes me insufferable on the internet, but I gotta ask you this one.
Though. Yeah,
that's the best. It is the best. Is Jose Altuve the face of the franchise? Is he one like in your Mount Rushmore as of now?
Like for over my lifetime?
Like over Biggio,
I mean,
over Bags.
it was Bagwell and Biggio, right? Like that was those were the two guys when you thought of the Astros. If you grew up an Astros fan in the era that I did, and I mean, yeah, he's taken that crown for sure. I mean, I think Altuve is arguably the most important figure in the history of Houston sports. I think you can make that argument. I really do. And it's not it's not just that he's been on these teams that have won. It's that he's the tone setter on those teams that have won. The guy comes out and swings at the first pitch like 98% of the time. They know he's going to do it. And he's still hitting first pitch home runs,
successful.
Which I've just never seen anybody do that before. Where it's like, this is an absurd strategy, sir.
I can't believe they keep throwing him first pitch.
I would literally throw like a cricket fastball, bounce it 50 feet.
Yeah. Dude, I think it's as a pitcher, you're like, no, this little guy is not going to do it to me. You know what I mean? Like you're like, I'm not pitching around this. I know he's going to swing at the first pitch. I don't care. I'm going to pipe him one, and he makes you pay. But his attitude and leadership in the clubhouse is obviously a huge part of our stretch of success we've had here. So, and he's just so humble, right? Like he didn't mess with any of the 2017 stuff, the fans talking shit, getting booed. He doesn't let any of it bother him. He didn't say anything back. He didn't try to defend himself. He didn't try to toss the blame at anybody else. He just went back to work, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think he's that guy. Even after he retires, he'll be like. And when I think of the Astros, I'll think of Jose Altuve. The first person that will have a shot at potentially changing that will be Yordan Alvarez. I think like he's like next. You know what I mean in terms of being the face of the franchise. So, but yeah, I literally love Jose Altuve.
Yeah. But one I think question to end it on. Who give us a prediction on who you think will have the biggest impact on the second half.
Ooh,
on this stretch.
Man, I hope it's the guy we were just talking about because that would be a very, very good sign. But probably Yordan Alvarez. I mean, that was if you saw him when he was healthy at the beginning of the year, he was mashing the ball. Dude.
He might have hit 50 bombs.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at his pacing and I was like, dude, he's on one this year. I mean, he's just gotten better every season, right? He seems to like continuously tweak his approach at the plate to stay on top of everyone he faces. And he's so much power. He's got to be like a top 5 power guy in the league. So, I think he comes back healthy, stays healthy the remainder of the season. And that's going to be our guy to watch because the only place that you see this team struggle in spurts is offensively with consistency. And that is because he has been out. He is the consistency. You get guys on base in front of him, he is going to knock them in. There was like a 3-week stretch where every single time he came up with dudes on base, I didn't even have to watch any. I was just like, oh, those runs. Yeah, I mean,
he just like doesn't seem to slump, which is so important to a team like this.
Yeah, his slump is like not hitting a home run for like he still gets RBIs.
Going 1 for 4.
A double the other way.
Yeah.
Oh, you're slumping right now.
Right. Yeah. He's gonna still get the production. The run production's still there, even when he's not at his best. Right. So I mean, that's the dude that I think is the kind of the like production wise, the heart and soul of the team at this point. Whereas like Altuve remains the like leadership wise heart and soul of the team. So
gotcha.
I hope Yordan is the most important in the second half. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we'll have this conversation right before playoffs and be like, why did everyone panic on the internet? Like, why was everyone
every year, man,
doubting this
every year?
You know,
you got to do it every year.
It's the Catalina wine mixer. It's always there. We're always going to keep showing up.
Yeah, this is just part of it, though. When it just, you know, honestly, it keeps it kind of fun. The fans always being nervous and questioning everything because it's like then when you see them show out in stretches, like everybody was ready to hit the panic button and cancel the season, and then we won 3 series in a row, and it was like, okay, well now what? What are you gonna now? What?
It's a roller coaster. Yeah,
and it's baseball. Long season, man. And that's the thing that even as a guy who I know this, I'm 36 years old. I've been watching baseball obsessively for over 2 decades, over 20 years. And I still, in you know, a sixth of the way through the season, I'll find myself freaking out. I have to remind myself, like, dude, this is how it works every year. It's the same thing. So, I mean, I'm extremely excited for the Astros to return tonight. I'm a little bit bummed that our first series after the break is in Anaheim and the game starts at like 8:45, and I've got 2 kids and I'm tired.
Well, at least Otani's pitching, so
that'll be fun.
France. It should be a good matchup. Ross, thanks for coming on, brother man. You want to plug your socials and everything right now so everyone can follow
man. You can check out my small media startup at bolenmedia.com. Follow me everywhere at WRBOLEN at WRBolen. And I appreciate y'all. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for letting me come through. Big fan of what y'all do. Thanks for the merch, by the way.
Yes, sir.
I've been wearing it, dude. Often.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll have you on again, throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, holler at me anytime.
Are you on Threads? You threading?
Shit.
You threading? You threading?
Of course, dude. Yeah. I'm on there weaving a web with everybody else. Yeah.
Shit. All right, that's the Ross Bolen episode. Ross, thanks again, brother man, and go Astros.
Yes, sir. We will see y'all next time.
Peace. Love you guys.